Hello, have you ever wanted to play something so badly for an RPG that you're just willing to do almost anything for it? Well, not me. Well, no matter what, here's going to be a shit guide to a Pathfinder character. Well, I've been playing tabletop RPGs for almost 6 years now, getting close to 6 years. And in doing so, I've come up with a couple of ideas for character builds, and I decided I was going to show one out to you. And if you don't care about it, well, you can go fuck off. But today I'll be telling you about the druid. The druid itself is actually a class entailed around walking around with nature. Now, just because you are playing a druid does not mean you exactly have to play as a tree hugger. Because ultimately that's what a lot of people actually see about it. So, start off with it, Pathfinder druids are vastly different than D&D druids. Now, for the longest time, until about a year ago, I was playing D&D 3.5, and then I moved to the Pathfinder. And because of that, a lot of things actually changed, but here's some actual things that I've actually built for this. Today I'll be showing you a Gathalon druid. I believe that's how you pronounce the race. If you don't know what I'm talking about, think of plant fairies. It's a plant fae. To start off with, at first level you'll be gaining the Nature Bond ability, Nature Sense, Aura Songs, and Wild Empathy. Now, depending on what you choose with the Nature Bond depends on how you go, but for this build I'll be choosing the Plant Domain. Now, for base attack bonus to start off with, before anything else, you have medium base attack bonus going to 15, 10, 5 by 20th level. Your good saves are Fort and Will, poor is Reflex. Now, also at first level for this build, which before I say anything else, is going to be a lot of house ruling, a little bit of house ruling here. And if you don't like it, you can change some things here. First level, I'll be taking the skew materials. Easy enough right there. Second level, you get Woodland Stride. At third level, you get Trackless Step, which is also, at third level 4 feet, I'll be taking Eldritch Heritage. Now this is where the but the house ruling comes into play. Me and my group agree that all you have to have is at least a couple of ranks inside of the appropriate knowledge skill to be able to actually take the proper bloodline. And for this, I'll be going Verdant Bloodline. First ability, Tinglevine. Now the Tinglevine actually gives you the capabilities of actually sundering, tripping with it ultimately within a range. Here, let me actually pull it up here. I'm not going to pull it up full screen for you to see, but this is so I can actually give you accurate basis. Okay, now the reason why I went with the Verdant Bloodline is because I'm trying to go more after a spell-intensive, nature-based, plant-based to be exact. Now, for Tinglevine, I'll read it to you as verbatim. At first level, as a standard action, you can create a 15-foot long animated vine that springs from your hand. This vine lasts for 1 round and can be used to make a single disarm, steal, trip, combat maneuver, using your sorcerer level plus your charisma modifier in place of your CMB. You can use this power a number of times per day equal to 3 plus your charisma modifier. That is the first level ability. Now I would go over the plant domain, but the fact is I will go over it right now, but I'll do that in just a moment. Now, continuing onwards, past third level. Fourth level, this nature's lore. And wild shape, which means we can actually transform into a animal shape so we can actually get our dodge. So we can, for example, cast spells from higher up so you actually don't get hit as often. This is a good bonus there, especially with the more spell intensive druid. After that, at 5th level, we gain a natural spell, always really good, because the fact is, what I just tell you, using wild shape to be able to make sure you actually get higher ground, so you don't get as often as you're trying to cast spells. Yes, well, it's not that useful for you to do at 4th level, because the fact is you don't have natural spell. What it does, it enables you to be able to cast spells in a wild shape form. So for any druid, it is actually an extremely important part of the build, even though truthfully you do not need to take it. That's just my opinion ultimately. Some people may find it different, but that's just how they are. After that, at 6th level, we gain a 2nd wild shape that we can use per day. After that, at 7th, I'll be picking up a spell penetration. At 8th, I'll be gaining wild shape 3 times per day. 9th, I'll be gaining venom immunity, as in the name, it actually makes you immune to poisons. And also at 9th level, I'll be gaining quick wild shape. Now, quick wild shape is a very unique ability that you can use, a feat you take. Start off with, you have to be a druid with the wild shape class feature, or anything else that actually gains the class feature of being wild shape. It enables you to, as a swift action, to be able to. It enables you as a move action to be able to wild shape, but at the cost that you can only wild shape as a druid of your level -2. Now you can also wild shape as a swift action with it, to make it to where you wild shape even quicker than a move action, so you can do everything you'd like to do. But at the cost, you act as if you were a druid for your wild shape of your level -4. Now, this does not mean you have to use it for the build. You can ultimately change anything else that I'm actually stating here. This is what I felt like I wanted to have for the build, and it's what I like, okay? Next, the 10th, gaining wild shape 4 times per day. After that, improved Eldritch Heritage. For photosynthesis. Now, for photosynthesis is an ability given to you by the verdant bloodline of the sorcerer. What it does at 3rd level, I will read it to you verbatim. At 3rd level, you feed upon nature's raw essence. Your need to eat and sleep is reduced, as if wearing a ring of sustenance. And you gain a +2 racial bonus on saving throws made against poisons and sleep effects. At 9th level, those bonuses increases to 4. Now, why did I choose to actually take that ability? It's a free item at that point. The Ring of Sustenance is a very useful item ultimately for any player to have a hold of. Let you makes so you have to sleep less, you don't have to eat as much, and in doing so, it actually helps you survive a lot more, even though I know it's gotten a little late in the build. At 12th level, gaining wild shape 5 times per day. And at 13th, gaining Eldritch Heritage again, but for Mass Morph. Now, this is when things start actually changing a bit for the abilities from the bloodline. And you start gaining drastic power with it. I know this is not going to sound like too much power, but the fact is, well, what the fuck ever. My opinion, I'll read it for verbatim. At 9th level, as a full round action, you can alter the size and health of a plant life, as if using plant growth or diminish plant. Alternatively, you can transform one willing non-plant per sorcerer level, no two of which can be further than 30 feet apart, as tree shape. So that means you can transform them as their tree shape. Later on, you can transform them further via plant shape 1, and then that's at 15th level, and 20th level is plant shape 2. Now, if anybody knows about the Eldritch Heritage feats, it acts as your level -3 is your sorcerer level. Everything still applies as usual. So that is the Mass Morph. Now, you can use this once per day for transforming a non-plant into a plant, but the controlling of plants, making them bigger, smaller, whatnot, that is a at-will thing once you gain it. It's a good bonus, especially for a nature-based druid. After that, at 14th, we gain Wild Shape 6 times per day. And then at 15th, Timeless Body. Now, before I continue, Timeless Body enables you to be able to... Sorry, I skipped an ability. At 13th, you gain 1,000 faces. I apologize. Now, 1,000 faces is a magical-like effect that alters your appearance and voice. Now back to Timeless Body. Timeless Body, what's one of the biggest problems about playing characters for a long period of time? Aging. The aging is a problem because the fact is you take, when you hit middle age, you take a -1 to all physical scores, you gain +1 to all mental scores. Old age category, you take -2, but you gain +2 to your mental scores. Yeah, with Timeless Body, it's just like you gain the bonuses without actually taking the negatives. Your body doesn't physically age. You can still die by aging, of course. You just aren't affected by aging. Now, also at 15th level, gaining improved spell penetration. Now, I know from what I've stated so far, well, Combat Cast is not in the build. The entire reason why is because I'm not playing a more Wild Shape intensive build. I will be playing more of a spell intensive build. But after spell penetration, you will gain Wild Shape 7 times per day. And at 17th, Eldritch Heritage, greater. Gaining Rooting from the Verdant Bloodline, being the final ability we'll be gaining with it. Rooting, I'll read as verbatim. As a move action, you extend roots into the ground. Your speed is reduced by 5 feet, but you gain a +4 bonus on natural armor, +10 bonus on CMD, your CMD check against Bull Rush, Overrun, Road Position, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and Trip Maneuvers. You also gain Tremor Sense of 30 feet and a Fast Healing of 1. You can use this power for a number of minutes per day equal to your sorcerer level. This duration does not need to be, that kind of thing. It does not have to be used all in one time. But it still has to be used in 1 minute intervals. Yes. Now, after Eldritch Heritage at 19th level, beginning Wild Shape 9 Wild Shape 8 times per day. And at 19th level, gaining Toughness. I'll explain why with Toughness in a minute. And at 20th level, Wild Shape at will. Now, reason why Toughness is because the fact that the Gathalon, like I believe that's how you pronounce it, mind you, gain a +2 strength, +2 charisma, -2 constitution. Now, I know it's not exactly optimal for a build, but the fact is, especially for a druid, but the fact that I wanted to go down this route, if nobody likes it, well, go the fuck away. Don't care. So, as traits they actually have, they were actually Fae. In description, they were actually born from a tree inside of the Fae realm. Yeah. They are basically seeds. Seeds that become half Fae plant things. Yeah, look up this fucking description of them. Literally. The description are the seed they're born from literally becomes their wings. A good example. While vines and shit grow from them, yeah. But yeah, they are Fae. They are small size Fae. Now, I've read a bunch about them, about people's opinions, and a lot of people bitch about how they're not tiny size for some reason. I don't understand. Everybody has their own opinion, mind you. It does not mean that you have to play it the same way as I do. Now, by being small size category, that means you get a +1 size bonus to your AC, +1 size bonus on all attack rolls, -1 to your CMB and CMD. I will gain, for this, a +2 bonus on fly checks, +4 bonus on stealth checks. Base speed 30 feet, which I know they're one of the more faster, smaller races, and a fly speed of 40 feet with poor maneuverability. Now, there are some racial traits that you can actually replace some of the abilities here with, and in doing so, you won't gain the fly speed. There's also racial bonus feats, or feats in general you can take, that get rid of for a short time period some of your abilities, but that does not mean you need to take them. Now, to continue, you will gain low light vision, have a +1 natural armor, and once per day you can either cast Entangle or Feather Step. Also, for this build, I will be taking Fey Resilience. Now, as what this once again goes into house rules, our group is a house rule that you can take racial traits as race traits without taking any of the negatives from it, like losing the extra shit that you have, because we always start off with 2 starting traits. But it has to be one of those starting traits, and it counts the race trait for you. The exception to that being is like for the human's trait to be able to actually gain +2 to 2 ability scores. That is one great example there about how some house rules here just aren't exactly what you expect sometimes. But I'll be taking Adopted Elf for the Elven Magic. Now, it's part of the background story ultimately, which is the reason why I chose it. He wasn't raised inside of the Fey realm, no. He was actually raised by elves inside of our world. I forget the fucking name of the plane. The actual plane type, Material, yeah, sorry. Material plane. Now, yes. Now, I know I could actually have chosen something better, like the martial weapon proficiencies, which, yes, I could have chose. But I chose against it. I want to be more for this character a magic intensive, so I decided to go with Elven Magic. That is just a basic lowdown, it's a very small basic lowdown, mind you, of the character background, kinda. I still haven't worked everything out for that one, but I'm not ready to play the character anyways, because still running on a group right now. 2 actually, about to be 3. So, now, the plant domain for this character. Now, the plant domain fit in really well for a nature-based druid. Now, for the nature bond, for anybody who doesn't know, you have 2 options. One, you can take a animal companion, which you can help use for fighting, scouting ahead, and things like that, or you can actually just take a domain. You have a small list of domains, being like earth, fire, water, wind, plant, animal, things like that. And also certain variants of them being the subdomains. But what I decided to go with is the plant domain. Now, at first level, you'll automatically be gaining Wooden Fist. As a free action, your hands can become as hard as wood covered in tiny thorns. While you have Wooden Fists, your unarmed strikes do not provoke attack of opportunity, deal lethal damage, and gain a bonus on damage rolls equal to half your level. Now, the reason why I say half your level, before anybody who actually knows, it says half your cleric level, because the fact is, for the purpose of the domains, the domain powers, your level for druid equals your cleric level for the domains that you have access to. Now, it's a minimum of 1 for this, which is actually really good. So that means the first level, your unarmed strikes have a minimum of a +1 bonus on damage, which is pretty good, because you're not going to be any monk, what the fuck ever. Now, you can use this ability a number of times per day, number of rounds per day, equal to 3 plus your wisdom modifier. They do not need to be consecutive, but they need to be spent in 1 round intervals. Next, at 6th level, regaining Bramble Armor. What it does is, well, not as great as some of these abilities aren't as great as what you'd expect them to be, especially when you talk about the Verdant Bloodline for Sorcerer for this build, because of Eldritch Heritage taking it. Yeah, what it does on any unarmed strike or a melee weapon attack within reach will cause, basically, I'll read it verbatim, sorry. You can cause the host of wooden thorns to burst from your skin as a free action. While Bramble Armor is in effect, any foe who strikes you with an unarmed strike or melee weapon without reach takes 1d6 points of piercing damage plus 1 point per 2 cleric levels, which would be basically 2 druid levels here. You can use this ability a number of rounds per day equal to your cleric level. Does not need to be consecutive, but of course needs to be spent in 1 round intervals. Okay, now talking about domain spells. Yes, domain spells, you gain domain spells just like a cleric would. I know, it's a little weird for some people to actually think about. Domain spells going from 1st up to 9th level spells. 1st level, each one has 1 each, so I'm not going to state the level, I'm just going to state the spells in order. You have Entangle, Bark Skin, Plant Growth, Command Plants, Wall of Thorns, Repel Wood, Animate Plant, Control Plant, and Shambler. Now, there's a bunch of really good spells here that you can actually use as domain spells. In doing so, you gain 1 domain spell per spell level, which is a very good bonus here. Now, that's the basic premise of the build. Now, for certain things here, if your DM says you cannot take certain of these abilities, like for example, the Fey Resilience, well, easily enough replace it with something else you really think would actually fit for the build. Or if they don't allow you to take the Eldritch Heritage feats, without taking a feat that states it can be used in its place for skill focus, or you just don't take skill focus, and you still want to take them, just get rid of skill materials in place for skill focus or whatever feat the fuck you want. You can change these out whenever you want to. Go ahead, use this build if you want to, mind you. But here's a couple of good low level spells for you to be able to use for this build that I find that actually be really relatively useful for this build. First level spells, we have Cure Light Wounds, Goodberry, Entangle, Tears of Wine, Thorn Javelin. Now, the reason why for some of these are kind of self-explainable. If anybody's getting new to the actual role-playing games, Cure Light Wounds lets you heal. Goodberry lets you heal slightly as well, but it makes sure you're actually fed. Entangle, well, as in the name, it makes it so you just can't do shit because it can't move. You know? Tears of Wine, this is what part is actually is. You actually get massive bonuses to any intelligence and wisdom based checks for 10 minutes per caster level. So this is one of those spells I'm going to be having going constantly when I can at higher levels. So I'm picking up a lesser rod of extend, especially since it's the 1st level spell. So I did the math on it. Ultimately, there'll be about 6 hours, give or take a bit, by 20th level, which, yes, I know, not too many people actually expect to be able to get up to 20th level or even higher, but what the fuck ever, that's what we do. 2nd level, you have Bark Skin, Defoliate, I believe that's how you pronounce the name, Fiery Runes, Forest Friend, Green Sight, Lay of the Land, Plant Voice, Vine Strike, and Web Shelter. Now, Barkskin is basically the druid's version of, well, mage armor of sorts. It gives you better natural armor, better armor in general. Now, defoliate, it's when you create a 60-foot line or 30-foot burst that destroys plants. I know destroys plants, especially for this build, But the fact is, let's say you're having to deal with a bunch of actual plant creatures, and this is just ultimately spells I think are really good for druids to take in general to have prepared. Now, for plant creatures, it actually does deal damage. I'm not going to get into that, but it does deal damage to plant creatures. But actual plants itself, like non-plant creatures, non-living plants, exactly, whatever, it does destroy. Fire Runes is one of those spells you can actually use to deal fire damage. Yep, kind of shocker there. What it does is you can actually basically enchant a weapon with fire damage being like a couple D4 plus 1 or something like that for a couple of levels, per couple of levels you have. It lasts for a good amount of time ultimately, and the way if I see this is like you're being hunted or you're hunting something else. Or you're about to go inside this very long, difficult dungeon, and you have your front-up fighter, being a big tank or whatever, a barbarian, hell, even another druid, ultimately, that's actually going with a wild shape intensive build. With it, you can ultimately choose to cast on their weapons, and in doing so, until dispelled, being used, ultimately, when you choose to use it for your attack, you actually deal fire damage. Additional fire damage. So it's really good there. Forest Friend ultimately makes it to where you actually... plants and shit part away from you. They don't hinder you. And being able to cast such a spell like that before you actually get... Woodland Stride... Sorry, not Woodland Stride, before you get anything to actually deal with them more, like plant growth or reduce plants. It's pretty helpful. Now, Green Sight. This is the moment when you just go blank. Let me look the spell up. I don't remember. I wrote it down, and I just do not remember. So, yeah. Okay, Green Sight. Still second level spell. Will save does negate, mind you. For 10 minutes per level, per cast level, gives you the ability to see up to 60 feet through thick plants, matter, as though, transparent, to let you be able to bypass concealment because of plants and whatnot. It basically makes to where you have X-ray vision as long as it's plants. Yeah. So that is Green Sight. Now, Lay of the Land. Ultimately, it gives you massive bonuses to survival checks and whatnot, diplomacy and whatnot, for when you're inside of a certain location. It lets you be able to become more familiar with them to help enhance your skills, attack rolls, and whatnot in general. Not going to get too much detail because there's so many different ways you can use the spell for really good situations. Plant Voice. It basically makes it where you give a plant a capability of speaking a language you can speak. You can give them more than just one, but the fact is you have to be higher level, and we're talking about low level spell casting for this, like minimum third for the third level, minimum level needed for third level spells at this point, or even lower. Vine Strike. It's a spell that ultimately lets you be able to entangle anything with your natural attacks. Like the entanglement spells, the fact is you have to attack them, you deal damage to them, they have to make appropriate rolls and saves and shit against your entanglement. Like the entanglement spell. It's a bit better in that one for more of a wild shape intensive build. But sadly it's only usable with natural attacks. Now, that's another thing. If you have like a shifter in the group, which is basically a druid on steroids when they're talking about wild shape, because they get the ability to do all the shit that you want with Wild Shape and then some. And depending on what archetype or archetype, whichever one you want to pronounce it as, it will give you different abilities like transform it into a dragon. And now I know the druid has an archetype for dragons, but it doesn't really matter too much for that. Continuing, web shelter. It is, just as it states, you make a shelter of web. A home for you to actually rest in for a time being. Now, it only can really hold 1 to 2 characters depending on the size. Like 1 medium or 2 small possibly, give or take. But if you ever get separated from your group, here's a good spell. Now, 3rd level, you have Cure Moderate, Steel Size, Thorny Entanglement, Anchored Step, Burst of Needles, Hide, Campsite, Hurricane Blast. Cure Moderate is just like Cure Light, except it heals more. Steel Size is actually one really good ability to be able to use the spell. What it does ultimately is it enables you, as the caster, to target 1 creature. If they fail their save, automatically their size gets reduced by 1 and yours get increased by 1. Really good ultimately for if you're trying to weaken down the enemy. Even if you're just a heavy spellcasting intensive, I would highly suggest preparing it for if you're a wild shape intensive version of them, because the fact is at that point you're just being a buffer. Or even if you're trying to be just a buffer to actually fight in your natural form, be in your humanoid form, and then wild shape secondary, it's a relatively good spell. You reduce the size of the enemy. That's the thing. It's almost like any reduced person before you actually have the capability of getting it, as most spellcasters. I believe. Don't quote me on that, okay? Don't quote me on that. I probably am very mistaken. Now, Thorny Entanglement is like Entanglement itself. You fail on the save, you're stuck inside. But the fact is, also, you can deal damage with them. You have animated vines of swords that actually lash out and deal damage against targets. And any target left inside actually automatically takes damage from it to begin with. It's piercing damage, mind you. So it's really good for certain enemies. Now, Anchored Step. It reduces your speed a good amount, but ultimately what it does, it gives you bonuses to balance checks, CMD checks against trips, Sandal Bull Rush attempts, things like that. Burst of Needles. What it does ultimately is make it to where you have a bunch of needles shoot out of your body, dealing damage. This is more of an offensive base build on its own. If you're going with this spell to be a primarily used spell, I don't suggest it because there's a lot better spells out there, but it's good for a number of reasons. Because it gets more of an area of kinda. Hide Campsite. This is another really good spell here. Enables you, as per the name, hide and let you hide your campsite. It is an illusory effect that unless something comes up to your campsite, ultimately, they're not going to be able to tell us anything. Besides being a place where a bunch of animals may actually be there that want to kill them. Full description, of course, everything's on Paizo. You go look it up. It's third party, free, whatever. Whatever you want. Now, with this, it enables you to be able to help your party out for reasons, because it makes you don't have to always have somebody on watch, on guard. Now, you and your party in the area of the effect, in your campsite, you won't be affected by it. You can see through it as usual, but anything outside will not be able to see in and see you guys. Now for Hurricane Blast. Well, for all I can say is for this one, somebody start playing Avatar theme, because the fact is you'll basically turn into an airbender at this point. Yeah, excuse me, I didn't know if this actually caught, but I kind of farted. Yeah, sorry. Let me actually pull it up for you so I can actually read it to you, because it's a very good spell, but it's basically pretty damn good. But just because it's a spell that I suggest you preparing, or any of these spells, does not mean you need to take them. It's just a suggestion. Now, it is an evocation spell that lasts 1 round that has a radius of 5 feet, burst centered on you, mind you. I believe it was. No, it's just 5. Yeah, centered on you. It's a 5-foot radius burst per 2 levels, maximum of 25-foot radius. Reflex save does negate. This is ultimately mostly about what happens if you're a certain size category. Tiny size, okay. Tiny size is smaller that fail the reflex save are pushed back 1d4 times 10 feet and take 1d4 points of non-lethal damage per 10 feet. If you're flying tiny or smaller creature, automatically on failing reflex save, you are pushed back 2d6 times 10 feet and take 2d6 points of non-lethal damage due to battering, buffing, and whatever. You basically hit something. Small size. Now, I'm sorry though, before I continue this, if it doesn't actually come out good with audio, but I'm having to trying to talk into a microphone and look at someplace else at the same time, so I can actually read this off. Now, for a small size creature that fails a reflex save, is knocked prone. Or if you're a small sized flying creature, or blown back 2d6 times 10 feet. Medium creatures are unable to move forward, but if you are flying, you will be pushed back 2d6 times 5 feet. If you're large, you may move normally inside of this. That is the base premise of it. It's a basically get the fuck away from me spell. That's what it is. Yeah, any creature regardless of size takes a -4 penalty on range attacks, listen checks against you, because you basically, if you remember that one scene from the Avatar series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang found out that his entire tribe was actually killed, and then he just went berserk with a burst of wind, basically in the center radius around him. That's basically the premises of the spell. And yeah, that's been this character build. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe down below if you want to hear more, because the fact is, if you don't, I'm going to be probably posting more. It's ultimately your decision to do so. Take the build, use it if you want to, change some things out if you want to. Who gives a crap? Enjoy the game. Hope to see you in another video.